Hello there, welcome back to my channel. It is Monday, February 24th, and this is a pretty normal week, so I figured today I would bring you along with me, show you my usual Monday routine, how I get set up for the week, what I do coming off of a weekend, so let's jump into it. So right after I finished recording that clip, I looked over at my window and realized our water cycle in a bag is no longer attached to the window. It's on the floor. It looks like the Ziploc bag held, which I guess is a good thing. The first thing that I do when I come into my classroom is unpack my backpack. Usually over the weekend, anything that I need to bring in, I place in my backpack, whether it's something I got on Amazon or just something I had at home that I needed to bring in. I always bring my personal laptop back and forth. I like to have two computers when I work throughout the day. It just makes it easier. Oh, in this back pocket, I also keep this plastic container so that I can transport papers. And one of the things I did over the weekend is create these free seat choice coupons. Let me show you what they look like. Now, I have these as an editable Canva template, so I will link that for you if you are interested. But these are corresponding with my prize board. I shared in a previous vlog that I got it's almost like a Plinko prize drop board from my Amazon wish list, and one of my prize options is a choose your seat for the day, and I did not have a printable coupon for it, so I created that. That way I can give it out to students who earn that as their prize. Then I also got some Amazon deliveries over the weekend from my wish list. Shout out to Angelica, who gifted these to us, but I've got some scratch and sniff stickers, which I love me some scratch and sniff stickers.
It's not a scratch and sniff gift.
Bridget and I recently recorded a podcast episode. If you're not already listening, Bridget and I have a podcast called Teaching to the Top, and we talk a lot about time management, organization, and productivity. Recently, we recorded an episode, it's coming out in March, but it was all about worth it or not worth it, and we went through different things that teachers can spend their time on, also just their energy, money, etc. And we each said whether we thought it was worth it or not. And one of the things we talked about was putting stickers on graded papers. Personally, it was a worth it for me. I think Bridget maybe said not worth it, but I get so much joy out of putting stickers on student papers, and I love me a good scratch and sniff. Maybe because I have distinct memories of being a kid and getting scratch and sniff stickers and being so excited about it. So that's really fun. The other thing were these little puzzle erasers. They're like 3D erasers, but they break apart into pieces. These are gonna go in our prize box. I know my students will be super, super excited. So Angelica, thank you so much. Then I will also unpack my lunchbox. So this is just water with some of those flavored drink packets. I'll drink that throughout the day. I have an energy drink to help get me through the day. And then my lunch. I know I shared this in my last vlog if you want to go back and watch it. Lately, I've just been prepping a bunch of veggies. Typically, I will cut up some cucumber, celery, and bell peppers, and I will make a buffalo chicken dip, but I was out of canned chicken. So instead, I just have a tuna packet, but I will put that into my fridge. And then this morning, I also have a little nifty gifty that I need to deliver. One of my coworkers is having a baby, and they found out the gender over the weekend, so I wanted to get them just a little something to go with that. Next thing on the list is getting all my technology ready for the day. So I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, just barely. I will plug in over the weekend any rechargeable electronics that I have just so they get a chance to, get some juice over the weekend. This is my clicker that I use when I go through my daily slides. It works like a ring, so I can put it on my finger, but then also I can hook it onto my lanyard, which I really like, and it is rechargeable through USB-C. So I plugged that in over the weekend. Also, a recent purchase, I got myself a new wireless mouse, not really by choice, but by necessity, because my old wireless mouse, which I had had for years, the USB piece that plugged into the computer got damaged, so it no longer worked. And I figured it was time to upgrade because that wireless mouse ran on batteries. This new one that I just got, which I will link it for you, is rechargeable, also through USB-C, which is nice, and it lights up. You don't have to light it up, but it has this LED light. It probably won't even come through on camera. Yeah, you can kind of see it. It's like rainbow. I just think it's really fun. You don't have to have the light on, you can have it off, but I will link that for you if you are interested. I will also turn on all my lamps. So I've been trying to keep this off in a lot of my videos because I know some people don't like it in the background, but I've got the color changing light back by my back table. And then I also have my color changing lights up here by the front. But what is kind of comical is I have to like hold the little remote back here and just kind of keep clicking it until finally at some point I will get it in the right spot. There we go. And the lights will come on. Then I will turn on my IFP, which is interactive flat panel, and I have to just kind of reach back here. Hold on, let me see if I can do this while holding the camera. There we go. And then turn it on here. Get that loading up, warming up, because it takes a little bit to come on, and then I have to log into it. Then I will usually sit down at my back table and try to get some work done. I don't have as much time this morning. I was late getting to school. I love how I say late. I'm still over an hour early, but later than usual for me because one of the exits on the highway was closed down and I had to go around and everyone else was going around, so I sat in traffic for like 15 minutes.
Uh-oh, traffic jam on Route 3.
But I like to kind of set my plan for the week, and that's because with my planning time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is typically when I have like individual planning time. Now, Fridays, I like to get grading done. So on Fridays, my students are turning in homework. I've got to get that graded. A lot of times our graded science assignment will fall on a Friday, and I like to get my grading done like that day. I don't want it to linger. So Friday is typically like grading day / tying up loose ends. So really, I have Monday and Wednesday. Tuesday is when I meet with my math and science teachers, and then Thursday is when we meet as an entire 4th grade team, so I don't really have individual planning time on those days. But I want to make good use of my time on Mondays and Wednesdays to make sure that my planning is getting done. Now, thankfully, I am currently planned almost through when we're gonna take the STAR test for math. I've planned out all of the modules we have to teach. Now I am focused on the STAR review. I recently went to a conference. In fact, it was my last vlog, so go back and watch that. But in that conference, I got a bunch of ideas and essentially 10 days of review plans for the STAR test. Tomorrow, when I meet with the other math teachers, we're going to kind of formulate our plan. So I don't want to get too much done in advance, but I need to make sure I'm prepared for that meeting because I was the only 4th grade teacher to go, and I need to share everything with them so that they have all the information. But I do want to start just kind of mapping out the different activities onto an overview. That way my team teachers and I can kind of finalize what we want to do, which days, if we need to cut anything out, if we need to supplement anything. Now, in order to do that, I set up the exact same overview sheet in Google Docs that I use for all of our math modules, where essentially I link to the slides. So I have set up a little bit of a Google slideshow. It's not really actually set up yet, but I have the template to kind of go through the 10 days, and then we will map out the exact day that we plan to do that. And right now I just have question marks because I need to meet with my team and we have to solidify that. But then I kind of have an overview of the topic. So like what cluster we're gonna focus on that day and what specific skill, the strategies we're gonna use, the materials that my team teachers will need, and then if it's something that has to be printed, I have it linked through the materials with the Google Slides. So last night I kind of made the Google Slides for the tic-tac tally and went ahead and linked that. And then I have a spot for any notes. So just things that the teacher needs to know going into the lesson. So I've set this up. I'm just gonna continue kind of mapping out and like putting things into the slides. And then when we meet tomorrow, I can spend a little bit more time. But I think today my goal is just to make sure that I'm set up for that meeting tomorrow. And then the last, I would say 15 minutes or so before my students come in, I'm usually just quickly looking over my slides that I plan to use that day to teach. Now today in science, we are reviewing for our test tomorrow, and then in math, we are starting adding decimals. Oh, I need to take out notes, although I may have already done that. No, I did not. So I know on Friday before I left, I went into my future drawer. So I have a drawer where any copies that I need for weeks ahead, I put into that drawer. And then before the upcoming week, I will pull out any copies that I need. And so on Friday, I pulled out the notes, but I couldn't remember if we were condensing lessons and doing both on the same day or if we were doing them on separate days. Today, we are just doing adding decimals. So I'm gonna take these notes, I'm gonna put them up on my table near the front. That way, they're where I will be when I am teaching with them and need to pass them out. Subtracting decimals we go into tomorrow. So I'm gonna put this in the Tuesday drawer. But I will get the copies ready to go, look over the slides, and I also look over the daily slides. Those are the slides I use throughout the week for our morning meeting, which I call our 4 Emerson Family Forum, as well as slides that I use as we transition between math and science, the slides that I put up during our Math Flex time. I use the same template each week, and it's one of the things I do on Friday is I set it up for the next week. But typically on Mondays, I will include some activities from First 5, which I've talked about before. It's a fantastic free resource. They will send you an email every day with some little memes and games and things that you can do with your students, especially during that morning meeting time. And on Mondays, I like to kind of pack a bunch of those in. Just it's part of our Monday routine that we will go through some of those. So I'm gonna spend a little bit of time doing that and then we'll catch up after school. But first, in case you're not familiar with First 5, when you get your email, there will be a link and it will take you to the page for that day that looks like this. And you get these different like memes and all you have to do is copy this image and then put it onto a slide or just project it for your students, whatever works best for you. They give you questions to discuss with your students, different things to greet them with at the door. You have these quick connects, you have different care, social emotional connections, mindfulness, and then they'll include quotes, videos, and this is one of the newest things. My students are obsessed. We did this on Friday. They have these brain games. So I did one with my class on Friday where I first did the game. So just to kind of show you, when you play the game, you have to like complete a different task and it will time you. So for this one, let's see what it is. Okay, so you have to drag, I guess, and like label the map of like where the people are from and the timer is going. So I did it first and then I allowed 3 different students, I just randomly selected them to come up and try it and we tried to get a faster time. And then I went through at the end and did one more go and we actually made it onto the leaderboard on Friday. My students were cheering so loud. They were so excited, but it was cool because we had this conversation about how we were able to learn from one another because when I did it the first time, my students learned from my mistakes and then I learned from some of their mistakes and we were able to put it all together and as a result, we were more successful. So that's gonna be part of our new Friday routine is doing these brain games, but in case you are not already signed up for the First 5 email list where you get that daily email, I will link it for you down below. I love it because it's just a fantastic free resource and it makes my life that much easier in the mornings when I'm trying to pool these different activities and things for our morning meeting time. Once the school day ends, the very first thing on my to-do list is stuffing Tuesday folders. This is how we send home graded papers. Obviously, it is a folder that goes home on Tuesday, hence the name. It's not the most creative, but it gets the job done. My students each have a folder and throughout the week, any papers that I grade along with any papers that my team teacher has graded, I place into this Tuesday folders drawer. So I collect all the papers in here. Then on Monday afternoon, I will take all of the papers and as you can see, they are clipped and they are already in number order. So both my switch teacher and I, we place them in alphabetical order according to the roster. That way, when we go to stuff them in the folders, I basically lay out all of these piles of papers and I will just take the top one from each stack. Obviously, I double check because sometimes a random student is missing a paper. Maybe they were absent or for whatever reason, they didn't complete it. So I do double check, but it's very helpful to have them all in number order. Now, this was a heftier week in terms of graded assignments. I would say usually there's maybe 3 to 4. There may also be papers from like the front office that need to go home, but I can have the entire class's Tuesday folder stuffed in about 5 minutes. I just lay them all out on my table. I do it like an assembly line and it's done. Once that is done, I sit down and process. This is where I just soak in the day. I reflect on anything I need to do differently specifically for tomorrow. Of course, I always reflect on my lesson plans as a whole and I'm thinking about what I would do differently next year, but for right now, what is most important is tomorrow. What am I doing tomorrow? So I have those copies that I showed you this morning on subtracting decimals. I'm gonna go ahead and pull those out. Our lesson on adding decimals actually went really well today. My students were rock stars with it, so I'm confident that it will go well tomorrow as well. And then we may even try to start on Wednesday's lesson because Wednesday we have house day, which means we'll have less time for math. But overall, really good day. One of my students, this was so incredibly sweet. We had a lot of indoor recess last week because it was so frigid here in Austin, and my students love playing Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. I actually have 2 card games of it in my indoor recess bin, and one of my students said, oh, I have a gift, it's for you, but kind of for the class, can I go get it? I'm like, sure, and they come back, and they got us Wild Wild Taco, which I'm guessing is some kind of a new variation of Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. I know there's also one for the winter that's like snowman, gingerbread, something. I don't remember all of the different animals, but I've never seen this one before. And I thought that was so just thoughtful and kind. And I know my students are gonna be very excited to have that added to our indoor recess bin. Couple of other just random funny stories. I, for whatever reason, in math, have started doing this thing during our fluency practice when my students are quickly writing answers on their whiteboard and holding them up. Instead of just going around and going, yes, 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 I've started saying it in other languages. So my go-to has been yes, see, and we. So I'll go yes, yes, see, we, yes, see, we. And I just randomly rattle off, the language of my choice. And so all of a sudden I look down at a student's board and I see up at the top, they've written yes, see, and we, and they have little tallies next to it. I said, are you tallying which ones I'm doing? And they're like, yes. And it was just funny because out of the corner of my eye as I'm doing it, I see them going on their whiteboard. But my students have been really engaged by that and it's been working. And then now they're trying to give me new languages. And so each day I'll add in a new language. And it's just been a simple way to make it more fun. Also today during math, during the fluency practice, we were practicing taking a mixed number and writing it as a decimal. And I showed them, I think it was 4 44 hundredths. And so they wrote 4.44, which is still 4 44 hundredths. I'm trying to be strict on my students with saying the decimal the right way. Instead of saying 4.44, saying it as 4 44 hundredths. And then the next one was 444 hundredths, all written as an improper fraction. And this takes a little bit of explaining because if you're not from the Austin area, you may not be familiar, but there is a lawyer that lives around here that has a bunch of billboards and a bunch of commercials, and he is known for having his phone number be 444-4444. And in all of his commercials, he's like, if you've been in an accident, call 444-4444. And when that came up in the math problem, my students were all referencing that, and it cracked me up. Or should I say quacked me up? Because my next funny story, in the middle of math, no trigger, nothing that made the student think of this, but student raises her hand, I call on them thinking it's a question about math, and they just go, my dad and I saved a duck over the weekend. That's great, I'm very happy for you, thank you for sharing, but what in your brain just triggered that? And I asked, I was like, did I say something? They're like, no. I just thought of it and wanted to share. Oh, so thank you so much. But it's funny because I make a lot of duck sounds when I teach, and saying that out loud sounds ridiculous, but when I cross something out, I'll go, and my students always say it sounds like a duck. Plus, on my phone, I have alarms that go off throughout the day to remind me to take attendance and snack time and go to specials and lunch and all the things. And it is the duck sound because it gets my attention. But that's about it. In terms of my usual Monday routine, every now and then I might stay late on a Monday because I need to do a little bit of lesson planning. In fact, right now, I've been here for about an hour since my students left because I just got in the flow with working on getting ready for the STAR review that I mentioned earlier. And I made a lot of good progress today, but I do not go to the gym on Mondays, which is nice because that means I can get out of here and go run errands if I need to, or just get home early and enjoy the time with Billy. I typically cook on Monday nights, and so I'll have to start prepping dinner a little bit earlier than normal because on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays when I go to the gym, Billy will take care of the cooking. So I'll cook on the weekends and Monday and Friday night, and then he'll do those midday or midweek days. But I'm ready to get out of here. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. As always, thank you for watching. I love you so much. Don't forget to put your positive pants on, and I will catch you in the next one.